Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hello, and welcome back. Here we are with another episode of Modern Musings. I'm Amber Jones, and I'm here with my co-host, Kristen Hessler and Cindy Murray.
Hello.
So, we're here today to talk about something we always talk about, reading. Yay! So, coming up on March 2nd is Read Across America Day. And it is typically held on Dr. Seuss's birthday, March 2nd. And basically, it is a holiday that promotes reading.
Yay!
And yeah, any holiday that promotes reading is a holiday for me.
Me too.
Yeah. So a lot of schools celebrate this also, and they celebrate Dr. Seuss all week. And it's now kind of turned into Read Across America Week, so to say. But yeah, this year it's on March 2nd, and that's coming up. And so I just wanted to pose a question to you guys. What was your favorite childhood book?
Oh, yeah, because we've talked about like our favorite book and favorite
I could give
author.
you so many.
Yeah.
I had so many favorite books when I was a kid.
Yeah,
and
we
I-
haven't really talked about childhood favorites.
And I think my love of books, because I always had teachers who read books to us, chapter books and things. And so I just loved books so much that I picked up reading at a young age and just kept voraciously reading books. I remember being in fourth grade. I think it was about fourth grade. No, maybe it was fifth grade by then. And I loved books so much. I would go to the library, check out a book at the end of the day, go home and read the book. And the next day, go take that book back and get a new book, either in the morning or after school or whatever. And I would read a book a day, every day. And we're talking chapter books. So, I will say one of my first ones and probably my lifelong love was Laura Ingalls Wilder. All of the books. I read all of them multiple times when I was that age, from about fourth to fifth grade or so. And I loved them so much that I read them to both of my children. And I still have books because I bought them for the kids or was given a set. I think my set was given to me by one of my cousins. But I read them over and over and over and over again. I would finish the series and turn around and read it again because I loved it so much. And I just love those stories. I had others that have stuck with me for a long, long time. Some short stories that stuck with me for a long time. I can talk about those later. But that was the one that really taught me to love to read for myself. And I believe that my fourth grade teacher read Little House on the Prairie to me in class. And I just loved the story. So, and some of the other girls in class had read Little House in the Big Woods, I believe, which is the book before that. And so I went in search of that book and read it, and I just never stopped.
So, do you have a favorite Dr. Seuss book?
Dr. Seuss. Oh. I know a lot of people say Cat in the Hat, but it is actually my least favorite because they're naughty kids. No, I liked, I do love Green Eggs and Ham. That's probably one of my favorites. And that's really hard.
I know my favorite.
Go ahead.
Are You My Mother?
I was going to say, that was one of my other ones too. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. That was the one I had as a kid that I loved. That was Dr. Seuss.
Oh, actually, you know what? Horton Hears a Who. Although, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. I mean, my nickname is Cindy Lou Who.
Well,
So I love all the Whoville stuff, you know.
I
do like
have
those.
two. One of them is, of course, Oh, the Places You Will Go.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. That one's a good one.
And then Oh, the Thinks That You Can Think.
Oh, I was not aware of that one. I read a few of the Dr. Seuss books when I was a kid, but they were not very
Like-
common
Yeah.
for me. Little golden books were more common for me. So, like when I was that young age, and so I had lots of like Disney based little golden books, like the Jungle Book, the Disney version of it, and Snow White, and some of those, and then I couldn't even tell you all the books. I'm pretty sure Kristen had a lot of the same ones.
Actually,
when I was a kid.
one of it's
There was
a
a
brand
puppy
of
one.
little golden books. Yes, but I did love those little books, and
Mm-hmm.
every time I see them, I'm like, I want all of them, even though I'm like way too old for them now. Like, there's thousands of them. I
Oh
think.
yeah, oh yeah.
And they,
The
you know,
little
we're
train that
still
could.
make yes. Okay, yes.
Sorry.
That one was one of my favorites. My favorite book, though, like when we're talking about childhood, other than like Laura Ingalls, and Wayside Stories.
Oh, gosh.
Remember that one?
Man, I loved that one.
But so when I'm thinking of like childhood, I'm thinking like early childhood.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
baby,
okay.
baby.
Yes, and I still have my book. This is like probably one of the only books that I have from my childhood, except for like my preteen paperback books that I still have. It's called My Good Night Book, and it was a hard
Yes.
card
A board book.
board book,
Board book.
and it was like a little girl, and she had like her bedtime routine.
It's
which
kind of
is
like
funny
Good Night
'cause I-
Moon. A lot of kids grew up with Good Night Moon.
right? But this
Yes.
is way before that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And it's by Eloise Wilkin, and she actually has like a bunch of other books, like My Good Morning book. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. I want to look at it. I love the artwork in it because it's mostly the drawings and stuff. It's part of the Golden Book family of books. And so the little tugboat in the Golden Book, there's like some books about a little tugboat. He's like a bathtub toy when she's taking her bath, but it goes through like her whole midnight or going to bed routine. And my favorite page is when she's like tucked in bed and the windows open and like the wind is blowing and the curtains, and it's like the imagery is really beautiful in this book. Board book. Is that what you call it? Board book.
Yes.
I still have
That's
it.
where
So I
they-
have
yeah.
my trunk of like things that I don't have out on the shelf that I have tucked away for whenever.
Mm-hmm.
And
I still have like a little
still
collection
flip
of
through
like books like that too. Like did you ever read the book the Jolly Postman or the Jolly Christmas Postman? So like that was one of my favorite books when I was a little kid, because it's like a book of letters, because it's about a postman who goes and drops off letters. So it's an interactive book, and you pull out the letters and read them.
I used to have some books like that have like a lot of moving
I
parts
love
Yeah.
in them.
the interactive books that had like little flaps that opened and wheels that spun and little flaps with words under them.
Yeah.
and things like that. I
That
love
was
those.
that was one of my most favorite books. And then all of the Magic School Bus books. Those were also my favorite. But like, I guess you're going like younger. Like along the lines of like Dr. Seuss. I think it's the same publishing company, but it's not a Dr. Seuss book. It was called The Diggingest Dog.
The Diggingest Dog.
The Diggingest Dog. That was like my favorite book when I was little.
I know a lot of kids who loved like Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Yeah.
That was a in thing when like Stephen was
Hank
little.
the cow dog.
Oh,
too.
Hank the cow dog.
Oh
yeah.
gosh, yes, I had an original Hank the Cowdog book. Another book that I really liked, and like looking back on it and reading it now as an adult kind of makes me sad, but especially after losing my mom, but it's a book called I Love You Forever.
Mm.
And it's basically like a child and his mom, and she had like a saying to him that she said to him every night, I love you forever, I like you for always, and always my baby you will be, or something like that. And she said that to him every night when she tucked him into bed, and then he grew older, became a teenager, and she'd sneak into his room and hold him and say that to him. And then when he became an adult, she would sneak over to his house and say that to him. I wouldn't say probably every night, but and then at the end of the book, his mom was old and she was sick, and he would go into her room and say that to her. So it's like probably one of my favorite books as like a little kid. It was published like in the mid 80s, and it's just like a really sweet book. And then like looking back at it adult, it kind of makes me teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Sentimental books. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's like the Good Night book because I liked the images in it. I like to look at it. I don't ever actually remember reading it, but whenever I go into my trunk, I find myself looking through that book,
Yeah.
again, like I've seen it 1,000 times, but it's still like to look at the pictures. I still don't read it. I just look at the pictures, but it's a comfort.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have all those like comfort books that I had too. Like there was a Christmas book that I really liked. Not the Christmas Postman, but it was like a scratch and sniff book.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I had some of those too. Yeah.
I wonder if it still. I
tell you,
still have it. Like, I
It
wonder
just
if it
made
still
me
smells.
think of a childhood book that I remember having, and it was at my grandmother's house, and we had it. It was available to me all the time. It wasn't just at Christmas, but she had The Night Before Christmas in an illustrated book, and I remember reading that over and over and over again, and I liked that one. And I mean, like, I can still picture the illustrations,
There was a book in my elementary school library that I used to check out a lot until I was in the point where they were like, you can't check out books over there anymore. You have to go over to this other side of the library, with the big kid books, and that was really disappointing. But there's actually 2 books that I checked out a lot. One of them was like one of those early readers, but it was really big and it had like a bunch of stories in it. But they were like, real short, like a couple of sentences a page. And it was like a big book, like physically it was taller than all the other books. And that was probably why I picked it up, because I was like, ooh, a big book, And I used to check that out all the time. And it was like maybe from like the 60s, like the artwork in it seemed like it was from the 60s. It was kind of like older, because this was in the 90s when I was checking it out. I felt like it was like a really old book, and I think that's also why I was drawn to it, because it was an old book. And then the other book that I checked out a lot at the school library was Animals of North America, and it was a pretty big, like kind of like a resource book, but you could check that out. And I used to read that a lot, and I believe growing up I had an animal book
I don't remember.
Yeah, it had like all the different animals in it, and the pages were like falling out of it because I was always looking at the animals in a book.
I had talking about as a young child, and as I said, there were short stories that I loved, and they were in a book. So, but my grandparents, my dad's parents had a set of World Book encyclopedias, and with the set of encyclopedias, which was probably from the 50s or so. They had this set of children's short stories, and it was probably like a 10-volume set of books, and each book had a whole bunch of stories in it, and it was like best loved children's stories or whatever. And I remember being fascinated with the story of the Velveteen Rabbit.
Oh, I loved that book.
And,
Oh,
and I would read that and read that and read that. I just loved that story. And so that one, from a young age, was one of my favorites.
yeah, that was a really good one. I love that one too.
Yeah. I think I don't know that I ever read that one to my kids though. And I don't know. I don't remember if I did
I'm
or
pretty
not.
sure when I was in school, we watched The Velveteen Rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
Is that like an animated thing now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes,
probably.
it
Pretty
is.
sure. Is that the same one with Ricky Tikki Tavi?
Oh, I love Ricky Tikki Tavi.
No, that's a different one.
What's
Ricky
that?
Tikki Tavi is a story of from Rudyard Kipling.
Rudyard Kipling.
Rudyard Kipling, yes, who wrote The Jungle Book. Yeah. And it's
Okay.
in his,
It was like him and the snake, right? Like
yes,
the snake.
the
and
mongoose and the snake.
The mongoose and the snake, yeah. Ricky
But it's a
Tikki
I love that
rabbit and
story,
a
too.
snake, right?
No, it's a mongoose
Yeah.
and
It's
a
a
snake.
mongoose. It's kind of like a ferret.
Oh,
They're a
I guess I
mongoose.
just
In-
thought it
in-
was a rabbit.
In
then maybe.
India, they keep mongoose as a pet because they
Right.
kill. They're the
Oh.
natural enemy of the cobra.
Got it. Okay. Well, I didn't realize I got these two
Is it a
stories
mongoose?
mixed up.
Mongooses?
Mongoose.
Mongoose? I don't know.
I don't
Mongai?
know. Mongai.
Come on, English
It's
teacher.
manga.
Manga.
It's mongoose.
But yeah, I always love that story too. That was another one. I actually did read Rudyard Kipling's whatever. The Jungle Book is like more than one story. There are multiple stories in there, and that was one of them in there. And I did read that one.
Oh, okay.
I read that one to Stephen.
That's kind of like reading Tom Sawyer, though. The English is a little older.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's a harder read, but the stories are fabulous. So, yeah, and we're all familiar with some of the stories. You know, kind of like the Arabian Nights. We're all
Yeah.
familiar with so many of the stories there, but it's actually a whole collection of multiple short stories, all woven together into one. Crazy.
Okay, so what was y'all's favorite fairy tale as a kid?
Oh, there's another favorite book. Dang, I wish I remembered that one. But you remember the one with the dogs with the big eyes?
No.
Dad used to read it to me. There was like a bunch of different stories, and they were like weird fairy tales. Like,
Okay. Don't remember that one.
but one of them was like these dogs, and they had really big eyes.
Okay.
It had pictures, like lots of
Yeah.
really cool pictures, and there was like a couple of stories in that book, and I remember my dad reading those to me. So I was like young, like
Yeah.
6, 7, 8, but I don't remember that book either. I'm like, dang, why did we get rid of all my books? Because I'd go back and read that again, you know.
Okay, as far as fairy tales, a lot of my early fairy tales, though, I got them in the form of the little golden books because a lot of the little golden books, that's exactly what
Yeah,
they are.
were
is
fairy tales.
So I had Hansel and Gretel, obviously. Cinderella was always a favorite story of mine. Sleeping Beauty. Snow White. Trying to think. Those were probably my three or four favorites.
I would have to say that, gosh, I really liked The Frog Prince.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The Princess and the Pea was a favorite, too.
Oh, that was a good one too. And I really liked Rapunzel.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not thinking of like Disney
No,
fairy tales.
the
No,
story,
I'm thinking
just
of
the
just like
stories.
the stories.
Little Red
yeah.
Riding Hood.
Red Riding. Yeah, that was a good one
Little
too.
Red Riding Hood was a favorite of mine. Yeah.
What about you, Kristen?
I think that book the story was called The Tinderbox.
Oh,
Does that sound
I
familiar?
don't remember that.
So Tinderbox is basically about
There's
these
3 dogs.
three dogs that grant like your wish, and I just remember they had like really big eyes, as big as saucers. And in the drawings in the book, this was a really unique book because the drawings were not typical of like a children's book. They were more artistic and a little bit more obscure. Pretty sure one of my relatives gave it to me for Christmas or something, but it had several different fairy tales in it, and Tinderbox is a adaptation of Hans Christian Andersen's story. So I remember that was one of them, and then there was some other really common ones in there as well, but I liked that one because it was different. Like, I'd never heard of that one before, and I don't think I've ever seen it anywhere else except in that book.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
Well, did you either of you read? I know when I was a kid, I was always really not just drawn to, but exposed to books with animals at, like at that 4th, 5th grade, that 8, 9, 10-year-old age. It seemed like a lot of, especially the chapter books, were dealt with animals and a child's attachment to an animal, sometimes tragic. Coming to mind things like Old Yeller, Sounder, Where the Red Fern Grows, which is probably one of my favorites. The Black Stallion, things like that. Did y'all read a lot of things like that when you were a kid, or?
Where the Red Fern Grows, definitely.
I loved that one. Even today, we've watched the movie with Raina, right? Didn't we watch that with Raina?
No, we didn't watch that one with Raina.
Who did I watch that with? I did watch that
We
recently.
watched Fang.
Oh, White Fang.
White
Yes,
Fang,
we did
yeah,
read
That's,
it.
that's
Yeah,
what
we
we
watched
watched
White
with
Fang.
Raina. Yeah.
I was thinking we watched one here at the house with Raina, and I was thinking, well, I know I've watched Where the Red Fern Grows.
Well, Travis had her watch Old Yeller. Mm-hmm. Not too. I think that's
Maybe Mom was watching Where the Red Fern Grows or something. I remember it being on my TV.
Huh.
And I was just like, oh, that's still just as sad as it ever was. Yeah. It was very sad.
Yeah, that seems to, I guess, be in a lot of children's books, like the fairy tale, or not fairy tale, but like the animal thing.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely resonates a lot with children.
Uh-huh. I think it does, and in a lot of ways, it's children's first introduction to the themes of death and kind of helping them understand death and grief. And so I think those things are important for them to read, especially if they haven't had a death in their family.
Gosh, Fox and the Hound.
Oh, yeah.
That traumatized me when
yeah.
I was a
Oh,
kid. And, Bambi's mom getting
yeah.
shot. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, those are old. That's old.
Yeah. For sure.
Yep.
Well, definitely want to hear what our listeners think. What was your favorite childhood book? What was your favorite Dr. Seuss book? Mm-hmm. So head on over to MMC Chat and check out our latest weekly poll, and hopefully check out some blogs, modernmusings.net, and continue the conversation with why you read and how you celebrate Read Across America.
All right. Yeah.
And while we're talking about getting things along, what are we doing next week?
Next week, we are talking about I Heart Huckabees. We recently got to sit down, and I had not seen this movie, so...
Wow, yeah.
And Kristen and Amber were egging me on, so we watched this movie, and I can't wait to talk about it. So,
okay, well, yeah,
see you
tune in
next
next week, especially if you love that movie.
yeah.
We want to thank, before we go, Cake Mix Studios, and Creative Audio Tech for our equipment and our sound.
Yes.
And we want to thank our readers. Keep coming back. Keep listening to us. Keep interacting with us. We love you guys.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And
So give us some love and some likes.
love and likes. And we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.